The book is closed on the Paul Chryst era at Pitt with a record of 18 wins and 18 losses. Panther fans, I'm sure, hope to get more out of Pat Narduzzi when it comes to production in the win-loss category that starts with player development, but first getting the players there at the University of Pittsburgh. We bring in Jim Hammett of Cardiac Hill on the SB Nation platform for Pitt Athletics. Hey, Jim, we appreciate your time. And right out of the gate, let's look at those differences between the way Paul Chryst hit the recruiting trail and the way Pat Narduzzi has started his tenure there at the University of Pitt.
Yeah, actually, the interesting thing right now with Pat Narduzzi, it's his presence on social media, and that's really got fans excited lately. And he has probably used Twitter more than any coach in all of the country in the past 3 weeks. His assistants are all over it, and it's kind of funny. Whenever Pitt gets a commitment right now, they call it the Pat signal, because he'll tweet something, he'll call it Hail to Pitt, or Hail to Pitt ×2 if he gets 2 commitments, and that's how everyone knows Pitt got a new commitment. So in a way, Chris was very quiet, kind of a laid-back guy, and it seems like Narduzzi's more out in the open and more social media savvy.
And that's probably the biggest difference in recruiting overall, regardless of what university you're talking about, between now and going back 5 or 6 years ago, is the social media aspect. For those coaches who are not embracing it, not gaining a level of comfort in it, then they're going to get left behind. But it sounds like Narduzzi's up to speed and making some changes there. Right now, this recruiting class, as you well know, Jim, is rated 55th by Rivals and 47th by the 24/7 Composite. Can you run down some of those firm commits that seem to be big-time players?
Yeah, right now, and the whole recruiting class really starts with Jordan Whitehead. He is the top player in the state of Pennsylvania, 4-star cornerback. He's such a tremendous player. He led his team to a state championship. He's a great offensive player, too, so Pitt's really not even sure what to do with him. And he picked Pitt over Penn State, West Virginia, Ohio State, kind of the 3 local rivals. So to land him was a big coup, and that was actually done by Paul Chryst, but Narduzzi was able to hang on to the kid. Also, you have a 4-star running back from Eastern Ohio. His name's Darrin Hall. He kind of wavered with Paul Chryst leaving the fold, but Narduzzi and his uncle actually went to the same high school in Eastern Ohio, so the connection was built right away. And those were 2 guys from the Paul Chryst, and recently 3 guys that Narduzzi has brought on himself have really been some impressive gets for him. That's Anthony McKee, 3-star linebacker from Columbus, Ohio, Saleem Brightwell, 3-star linebacker from Paramus Catholic in New Jersey, and Jay Stalker, a safety from Eastern Pennsylvania. Those have been Narduzzi's 3 biggest commitments to date so far.
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned Whitehead. ESPN has him listed as the 142nd player, regardless of position, so he's in their ESPN 300 rankings, the only Pitt player currently committed to the Panthers in that top 300 class. You mentioned Darrin Hall Jr., out of Youngstown, listed at number 37 again, according to ESPN at his position. Saleem Brightwell at 31, Jay Stalker, 33rd rated safety. So all those guys, in addition to Whitehead, rated in that top 30 range at their position, which is pretty good stuff. Look at those guys that are still thinking about Pitt. Maybe they're leaning elsewhere. Maybe they've got Pitt in that top 3, 4, or 5. But you're hopeful that if Narduzzi can grab 2 or 3 of these guys, that it's really going to push that recruiting class up another tier.
Well, recently Pitt kind of lost out on their 2 guys that they were hoping to get at that point. That was Sharif Miller. He was a defensive end, 3-star from Philadelphia. He chose Penn State. And recently, as of yesterday, actually, Johnny Patrician, Central Catholic High School in Pittsburgh, 3-star safety. He also took Penn State. So those were 2 big-time players Pitt was really hoping to get. But I think with building the relationships they had with Franklin for over a year and Narduzzi only being there a month, it was kind of hard for him to make up ground. The one player that's still left on the board that Pitt really would like to get is Adrian Talon, a 3-star linebacker from Florida. He's down between Pitt and Nebraska, so he's going to supposedly pick right before signing day, and if Pitt can land him, that would probably be a good way to close out the class.
All right, Jim, as you look at this team last year that went 6-6 in the ACC, then had the bowl game loss to Houston, collapsing there in the fourth quarter. Look at the personnel from 2014 and kind of shape it up in regards to where this team really needs to develop players.
I think offensively, Pitt's in a good spot right now. You have James Conner, one of the top running backs. He has 4 of his linemen back. Chad Whitehead will be back at quarterback. I think developing a receiver opposite of Tyler Boyd is kind of a big deal right now. And they have 3 wide receiver commitments right now. And I think the one that stands out to me is Quadri Henderson. He was the top-rated player from Delaware. I've seen the Tavon Austin comparisons to him. So if Pitt can get a little quick wide receiver to complement Boyd, I think that would be the biggest thing they can gain from this recruiting class offensively. Defense, they need a lot of help. There's no doubt about that. And like I mentioned, McKee Jr. and Brightwell at linebacker, Stalker at safety. There's a lot of guys right there that can help them out. But pretty much all 3 levels of defense, Pitt needs help. There's just no way around that. That's kind of the reason they struggled this past season.
Jim, this has been an Eastern school, labeled as an Eastern school, along with Penn State and Rutgers and Syracuse. If you go back to the 80s, the 70s, and before that, the culture, I would think, has changed a little bit, or maybe the national mindset in looking at Pitt going into the ACC, which, of course, brings it more into the Mid-Atlantic and Southern regions. Does that affect recruiting? Do you think that this program needs to recruit a little bit differently than maybe it did 10 years ago?
I think so. I think they need to, address speed a little bit more. Probably hit Florida. I think getting 2 stars and 3 stars from Florida is a very valuable asset for any team in the Northern. Even Ohio State takes advantage of that as well. So even with this new recruiting staff, new coaching staff, we've seen them go down to Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. They're already prepping for next year because they didn't have many spots to fill this year. So they're definitely taking a more extended look down south.
I'm kind of taking advantage of the interview here, so Jim, I'm going to take us maybe in some different directions because you're always, it appears, looking at your articles and so forth, that you're on top of the situation there. Because when I get guys like you corralled on your particular program, I like to dig a little deeper. So, not having an on-campus stadium, having to share facilities with the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you think that hurts? Do you think the perception of Pitt maybe not being an upper echelon program in terms of resources and facilities is something that needs to be focused on?
This is one of the biggest debates you could have, with Pitt fans on message boards and websites like Cardiac Hill. It's a long-going debate. Pitt moved out of Pitt Stadium in 1999. They've been playing at Heinz Field since 2001. I think it hurts in some aspects and helps in others. It seems like recruits, they kind of eat up playing at Heinz Field. They share a practice facility with the Steelers. So there's 4 fields on their Southside practice facility. Mike Tomlin could come over and watch practice. And recruits kind of eat that stuff up. They really enjoy that. That they eat lunch with the Steelers. They're in the same building all the time. So that's a unique aspect. Not many colleges really have that. So I think for game day atmosphere, playing on campus would be nice, but where the stadium is and where campus is, it really isn't all that far away.
Hey, Jim, was Pat Narduzzi, was he a popular hire among most Panther fans?
I think so. I think one of the big things right now with Pitt is they removed their athletic director, who really fell out of favor with Pitt fans. So they were just really ready for a change of any kind. And I think they like Narduzzi. I think the fan base trusts him. They believe he's going to stay longer than Todd Graham and Paul Chryst did. So I think it's a good hire.
And do you think sitting in the 45 to 55 range in terms of the national recruiting rankings means anything to Pitt Nation? Do you think that's realistic? And again, is it more about developing players? Do you think many people within the fan base are going to look at that and put any stock in it?
Pitt fans are always going to worry about what Penn State's doing. That's just how it is. The schools are so close. They're going to start playing each other in 2 years. And James Franklin has done a tremendous job at Penn State recruiting in his 2 years there. So Pitt fans are going to start wanting to see more results. Penn State landed about 15 of the top 20 Pennsylvania recruits this year. So, that's going to be on the back of their mind. So Pitt fans are going to want to see better recruiting classes, but I think they're also going to give Narduzzi a chance to see what he can do. Michigan State, where he came from, they never really recruited 5-star players. A few 4-stars mixed in. So they're going to trust his coaching ability, but at the same time, they're going to look to Penn State, and they're going to want to see some winning some battles recruiting against them.
Jim Hammett joins us from Cardiac Hill on the Pitt platform on SB Nation. Hey, Jim, we appreciate you breaking down the 2015 class for us.
Thanks a lot, Mark, and have a good Super Bowl Sunday, I guess.
Definitely. You want to give us a prediction? Do you have any thoughts on the game before we let you go?
You know what? I think I'm going to go with the Patriots. Tom Brady is going to get number 4 today.
I usually go defense first, and I felt pretty proud of myself with the Broncos being about a field goal favorite last year, picking the Seahawks to win by 24 points. But this one I really wrestled with, and I'm going with the Patriots by a field goal. So I'm right there with you, Jim. So, again, appreciate the insight. Again, I'm a guy that tries to cover pretty much every team across the landscape, but love to get the real insight from guys like you. So thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you.